Good morning for United Kingdom's participants, and then also good afternoon for Indonesia participants, and maybe good day for the rest of you that tuning live from various countries. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Marine Plastic and Climate Change in Indonesia webinar presented by British Council, Bangor University, Pajajaran University, Aquaterra, and also Indonesia's National Action Plastic Partnership, or NPAP. Today, we're going to hear more about the theme of marine plastic waste, of course, and also climate change in Indonesia. It is my pleasure to become your moderator for the next 2 hours. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Switenia Puspalestari, and you can call me Tenia, and I am the Executive Director of Diversity in Action and also a part of the NPAP Task Force. Please let me know through chat room if you have any difficulties during the webinar, so I can make sure that all of us have a wonderful discussion time today. Before we start the discussion and understanding more about the background of the event from our remark speakers, I'd like to inform some webinar rules from the committee for you to follow. Okay, so the event will be conducted in English language. No translation is available now at the moment, but feel free to chat and ask questions in Bahasa Indonesia or Indonesian language, which we will gladly help to translate it to the native language speakers if needed during Q&A sessions. Please fill the registration link, which the committee can send through the Zoom chat room later on. And inside that link, you can participate to get the door prize for those of you who are in Indonesia. And we'll use the email registered there to share the certificate, slides, and webinar recording after the webinar ends. And we will do a short photo session after the remarks and before we start the presentation session from the panelists. Therefore, please download the virtual background that has been shared to the Zoom chat room and use it for the photo session later. The question and answer session will be open and available through the Zoom chat room, but to make sure that we do not miss your questions, please write it down during the Q&A session later on. And you can write the question clearly by elaborating your name, institutions, country, and to whom the question is addressed to. And you do not need to rename your Zoom participant name, but feel free to introduce yourself from which city or countries are you coming from through chat box, so we can understand more to whom we are discussing with today. Okay, so we already understand more about the webinar rules. We are all set, and we're going to hear directly about the event background and goals from 2 speakers that will give them remarks. First, we do have Mr. Peter Robbins as the Senior Lecturer in Physical Oceanography, Bangor University. Mr. Peter, the time is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning and afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. And I'm going to just give you now a brief background to what's being presented today. So we're going to hear, first of all, 3 presentations based on short projects, research projects that have been done under the grant funding from the British Council called the Researcher Links Climate Challenge Workshops. Now, this was a set of funding last year from the British Council that funded roughly 12 workshops between British universities and partners in countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Brazil, Pakistan, where else? South Africa, Egypt. And these workshops, the aims were to get researchers together and form research collaborations, tackle important research problems to do with climate change, but adapted to a specific focus, and also to encourage early career researchers in their development in further research. Some of the other projects that were funded on this call were things like, well, in Indonesia, there was our project, which is plastics and plastic waste and climate change in Indonesia. There was one on flooding and climate change in Indonesia. In South Africa, there was one on malaria and climate change. Sustainable energy and climate change in Pakistan. Coastal communities and climate change in Brazil. So they're just a range of the different workshops that were happening this year and last year. So from these workshops, people formed groups and exchanged ideas and came up with specific challenge prize projects. From our workshop last year, we came up with 3 projects that are the 3 projects you're going to hear in a minute. I'd just like to say that our project came off the back of another project with Indonesia, with the Universitas Nasional Sistem Aquaterra, that was going to go ahead this summer. It was scaled back due to COVID, but there will be still some workshops based on that project that will happen this summer. So this is good timing because the results from these projects that you're going to hear today will hopefully be used this summer for researchers at Bangga and Aquaterra to go over to Indonesia and hopefully continue the collaborations for future projects. I'd also just like to say that we've got another project at Bangga in Southeast Asia. It's focused on the Philippines, but it's focused on marine plastic waste and climate change in the region, and that's a larger NERC 4-year project that's ongoing. So and it's also with Aquaterra as well. So that might also be an avenue to carry on and develop any of these research ideas and collaborations that have developed this over the past few months. So that's a bit of background. I'll hand over now to the next speaker and the rest of the talks. If you've got any questions at the end, we can talk about them then. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Peter. That's a great bridging for us to understand that this is a good timing for future opportunities ahead, about the research and then also the collaboration opportunities. Thank you, Mr. Peter, once again. And now we're going to hear more the remarks from the NPAP Secretariat, which will address directly by Ibu Tuti Hadiputranto as the Chairwoman of National Plastic Action Partnership or NPAP.
Welcome, Mr. Peter Robbins.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Peter. That's a great bridging for us to understand that this is a good timing for future opportunities ahead, about the research and then also the collaboration opportunities. Thank you, Mr. Peter, once again. And now we're going to hear more the remarks from the NPAP Secretariat, which will address directly by Ibu Tuti Hadiputranto as the Chairwoman of National Plastic Action Partnership or NPAP. My apologies on the behalf of the committee that there is some slight technical issues. We're going to hear again the remarks from Ibu Tuti directly now.
Welcome, Mr. Peter Robbins from Bangor University, and welcome respected speakers and participants of Marine Plastic Waste and Climate Change in Indonesia webinar today. I'm Tuti Hadiputranto, the Chairwoman of Indonesian National Plastic Actions Partnership. We all know that waste, plastic in particular, have been a problem in Indonesia. And in fact, according to the World Economic Forum research, approximately about 4.8 million tons of plastic garbage are not effectively managed each year. And additionally, About 620,000 tons of them go into the sea and putting its ecosystem in danger. Meanwhile, of course, as an archipelagic country like Indonesia, 17,000 islands, marine health is critical. It is crucial to the economy and people's well-being. The government of Indonesia has set a commitment of reducing marine plastic leakage by 70% by 2025 and achieving near zero plastic pollutions by 2040 by moving to a circular economy for plastic. Recognizing the urgent needs to take bold, unprecedented action on plastic pollutions, Indonesia became the first nation to join Global Plastic Action Partnership as Indonesia National Plastic Action Partnership in 2019, or NPAP. We call it NPAP. The Indonesia NPAP has since flourished and grown into a locally led multi-stakeholder platform that brings together the nation's leading and policymakers, experts, business leaders, researchers, entrepreneurs, and civil society organizations, all working together towards one common goal, reducing plastic marine leakage. And PAP, in order to implement its goal, the government's goal, basically, has set up 5 pillars or task forces. One is the policy task force chaired by the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment and the World Bank. 2, the financing task force chaired by Fiscal Agency, Ministry of Finance, and Asian Development Bank. 3, innovation task force chaired by BRIN, or the Indonesian Research National Body, and Second Muse. 4 is behavior change, chaired by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology, the Nahdlatul Ulama Disaster Management and Climate Change Institute, and the Zero Waste Alliance Indonesia. And the last one is Metric Task Force, chaired by BRIN and the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization of Australia. For more information about NPAP, please visit our website, globalplasticactions.org/countries/Indonesia. I have to say that with all the task forces established in, I think, early 2020, we have been moving so fast. People are more and more aware about waste, about plastics, about the dangers of such. And, hopefully this will continue to multiply. And PAP, as an organization and platform, would like to assist the Indonesian government in making sure that now that the task force are established, really trying to encourage the collaborations between all members of NPAP and the community to make sure that they understand what it means to have a clean ocean. We know that plastic travels from the source all the way down to the oceans. And what Bangor University, with some Indonesian researchers are doing, is really something which is admirable. I really hope and look forward to understand what is the result or are the results of the research, and hopefully all of this could be disseminated soon and be understood and be usable by the people. Thank you so much. Have a good seminar.
Thank you, Ibu Tuti, as the chairwoman of National Plastic Action Partnership, or NPAP. Now we've already understand more about the background and then also the opportunities in Indonesia scale in terms of the collaboration in marine plastic waste and climate change efforts. Before we start the panel sessions, we're going to have a photo session Audiences, please feel free to download the virtual background that the committee have already shared on the chat box. And please turn on your camera now so we can have a wonderful photo session together. Not only the speakers and the panelists, but also for those of you that participating in this webinar as audience. Okay, I will mark to take the pictures together. Please smile. And for those of you who use masks, you can still smile with your eyes because we still capture the, the emotions. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, we do have 2 slides. Now the second slide. Okay, 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, great. I think we already wrap up the photo session. Now we are formally starting the discussion session. We do have 2 different or 2 part of the panelists. The first one, we're going to hear more about the Newton Fund British Council's Challenge Prize funded research projects, which we have 3 presentations is available for today. And I'm going to introduce one by one. After I introduce each speakers or each project, then I'm going to continue to the next speakers or project. And we're going to save the question and answer session after the second part of the webinar panelists finish their presentation session. Okay, so first, we do have speakers that coming from various backgrounds. They're going to address the marine litter pathways and climate in Indonesia, in the case of Selayar Island. We do have 3 speakers here. The first one, we have David Christie. He is the research fellow in ocean renewable energy modeling with a background in mathematical physics and an interest in energy extraction and environmental monitoring. He is analytical, numerical, and measurement techniques, as well as codes such as swan, tokaterics, waves, currents, and their interaction with human activities and structures. Hello, Mr. David.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so now we do have other speakers joining on this project. We do have Nia Jones. She is a NERC-funded postgraduate researcher studying for a PhD in the dispersal of microplastic in the marine environment at Bangor University. She has experience in modeling marine litter concentration using particle tracking models while also engaging stakeholders in the issues of plastic pollution. She is keen to work internationally and across disciplines to communicate the important issues of climate change and plastic pollutions with grant proposals, develop further projects, and create links between Bangor University and Indonesia. Hello, Nia.
Hi, thank you for the introduction.
Okay, last but not least, we do have, I think, Indonesian born and raised here, Munawir Bintang Pratama. Currently, Munawir is a doctoral degree student in Edinburgh University. His research interest is about coastal hazards, tidal energy, and numerical modeling. Before he joins in this project collaboration between Bangor University and Indonesia, he also a part of projects such as tsunami mechanism and coastal disaster damage after Palu Donggala earthquake and tsunami, Indonesia-Netherlands water challenge, and marine renewable energy or tidal current in Bangka Strait. Hello, Munawir.
Hi, Tania. Thank you.
Okay, so this trio is going to present directly about the Selayar Island. The time is yours.
Okay, let me just share my screen if that's okay. Hopefully that's sharing now. Right, so hi, I'm David Christie and I'm joint PI with Sophie Ward, also at Bangor University, on this project addressing marine litter pathways and climate change in Indonesia. I'm going to be sharing this presentation with Nia Jones and Munawir Bintang, who did a lot of the real work for this project. So we just had an excellent background talk from the NPAP Secretariat on marine plastic debris and climate change in Indonesia, which has globally significant biodiversity, a large coastal population, and a huge problem with mismanaged plastic waste. And some of the figures she gave there, 4.8 million tonnes of mismanaged plastic, of which 620,000 tonnes find their way into the ocean, is truly staggering. The Newton Fund British Council Challenge Prize had resources to fund 3 projects aimed at tackling these problems. So out of the 3 projects, we as researchers together took the view that the best way to approach these challenges, almost in a mirror of what NPAP are doing actually, the best way to approach the challenges was to all work together. So instead of having 3 disparate projects, we set up what could maybe almost be considered as a single project with 3 components. So we've been sharing insights, in many cases sharing actual research personnel as well, and feel that since the problem is complex and demands a holistic approach, this interlinked project could be more than the sum of its parts. Even the images used at this presentation are from the Nuremann's field trip in the 3rd of the projects you'll hear about later. So the 3 projects, the 3 elements to our joint approach were, firstly, and this is our part, is understanding the sources, sinks and pathways of marine plastic debris and how they may change in the future. And then the other teams were looking at investigating the regional scale behaviour impacts on a local level with a case study of physical and social effects. And finally, quantifying the impacts of plastic waste on the livelihoods and well-being of local communities for sustainable futures. So our project addresses the first of these, sources, sinks and pathways of marine plastic waste. So if marine plastic just stayed where it was, then the problem would be a lot simpler. Sadly, this is not true. But if it was, imagine if one village's dumped waste just stayed within that village, for example, people would just be able to say, look, this is becoming a problem, it's accumulating, you need to stop dumping it here. And on a local level, you'd be able to improve the waste management strategy and immediately see the effects. But in reality, the problem is a lot more interconnected than that. A plastic flip-flop dumped in one location may wash up hundreds of miles away. Conversely, a plastic bottle you pick up from a beach might have come from a different region or even a different country. So local waste management alone may not directly help the place it's being targeted, though it may help somewhere else. So to even begin to address this problem, we need to understand it better and we need to talk about it more. And there just isn't enough data at present about the relative roles of different sources, sinks and pathways of marine plastic waste. This project sets out to demonstrate just how such data can be obtained and visualised using Bangor University's modelling capability, particularly experts such as Nia Jones, but with experts in Indonesian marine plastics such as Noya Purba sharing insights into what size and location of model area we needed to capture the plastic behaviour, and a lot of other insights into the physics. So Nia Jones, who did the modelling, is going to talk about the particle tracking study and unveil our exciting new web app for visualising marine plastic pathways. This app also shows climate change scenarios, but these will be discussed as part of the second project by Comely after our presentation. Nia will then hand over to Munawir, who will describe the exciting outreach programme for schools and universities, which was conducted in conjunction with Noya Purba and his team at Universities Pajajaran. He will then hand back to me to wrap up. Okay, I will stop sharing and pass you on to Nia Jones.
Thanks, David. So hopefully that's now sharing.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're tuning in from. Thank you for the introduction, David. I'm a PhD student at Bangor University studying the dispersal of microplastic in the marine environment. And I've been involved in the modelling and app development part of this project, which is addressing marine litter pathways and climate change in Indonesia. One of the objectives of this project was to create an easy-to-use app which can communicate the results of a regional modelling study in a helpful and useful way to stakeholders. This app, which is now hosted on this website, is now live, and I'll demonstrate it during the next few minutes. This app simulates the potential dispersal of plastic particles from river sources around Sulawesi Island in Indonesia. The plastic particles simulated within this app are transported from 13 river mouths, which can be seen in this figure under the Welcome tab, by modelled ocean currents. These simulations are based on a sophisticated hydrodynamic model, HYCOM, which predicts flows driven by tide, wind, and heat inputs. Here we use model simulations from November 2020 to October 2021 to be able to demonstrate the effect of both the regional wet and dry seasons. The simulated ocean currents are coupled with a particle tracking model, ocean parcels. This model was set to release 80 virtual plastic particles from 13 discrete locations at 24-hour intervals over 3 months. These simulations were replicated for both the wet and dry seasons. These particles are then dispersed throughout regional waters according to the local simulated ocean currents. It is important to note that these simulations only account for the surface transport of plastic particles. So now let's move on to the demonstration of the app. First, navigate to the web address that we'll share in the chat in the discussion section, but that should bring you to this welcome page here. At this stage, I'd like to thank Noah and Keaton for their work on the development, user experience, and interface design of this app. To begin, click the second tab along labeled Location and Parameter Selection. A map should now appear with a set of instructions on the left of your screen. Click the location you would like to release the plastic from. So today we'll choose the La River. Next, you need to select the simulation parameters, which today is a choice between running the model for the wet season, which is November to March, or the dry season, which is April to October. For now, let's choose the wet season and click Load Data. The app will now work in the background to load up the results of the model. You can now view the output by clicking the Simulation tab at the top of the page. Click the play button just below the number of days since release slider to view an animation of the release pattern. If you want to see the dispersal at a particular day since release, you can simply use the slider to select the number of your choice. Simulations were ran for 90 days, so this is actually the maximum number of days you can choose. Notice how you can begin to identify regions of high concentrations and high residence times of marine plastic under these given conditions. Under the next tab, if I pause this, so under the next tab, labelled Sea Level Change, we consider how future projected sea level rise and the resulting coastal inundation may affect island nations in Indonesia. The maps illustrate the coastline of Celaya Island, Indonesia, for the present day and for a first order approximation of inundated coastlines with a sea level rise of 0.9 metres. This value was based on the IPCC's global mean sea level rise projection of 0.61 to 1.1 metres by the year 2100. The simple maps show coastal inundation as a function of the present day topographic and bathymetric data, with a uniform increased water elevation of 0.9 metres added to the present day mean high water line. On the map, you can click to the right to see the present day coastline, or to the left to see the approximated future coastline with a sea level rise of 0.9 metres, and please notice the changing coastline. That is the end of the demonstration of this app, which hopefully demonstrates the vulnerability of the Indonesian coastline to the interacting risks of marine plastic litter and climate change. Thank you for listening, and I'll now pass the mic over to Munawir for the next part of the presentation.
Hi everyone. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nia. For now, I would like to present the activity that we carry out in Indonesia, a field-based activity in Indonesia, and it is led by our team with Pajajaran University, Mr. Noer Purba, Ibnu Faisal, and teams. So we got two activities here. The first is the school outreach at Selayar, South Sulawesi. We conducted to raise awareness about marine plastic litter and climate change to Selayar people with Selayar Indonesian scope. It is conducted in January 2022, and there is another academic knowledge exchange at Bandung, West Java, which is objective is to introduce and demonstrate the functionality of modeling tool of marine plastic. It is also in January 2022. So the first, in the school outreach at Selayar, we are inviting 6 high schools at Benteng, the largest city in Selayar. We are participated by 28 male and 36 female participants, which is 48 students, 14 teachers, 1 NGO, and 1 volunteer. In the picture, we can see the first picture showing our team have a discussion with the teachers, and then the second, we have the discussion with the students, and we have photo together. We have discussion on how is the marine litter and climate change having impact on Selayar community. And then we also have outfield activity. We organize a beach cleanup initiative, and also plugging, jogging and cleaning litter along the way, and also a creativity event for the students. This is participated by all the student, teachers, NGO, and volunteers, and this activity is organized together to raise awareness and to see in person about how the marine plastic waste is taking place in Selayar coast and Selayar villages and the city. And the next, we also conduct academic knowledge exchange. In this, the form is ocean modeling workshop. This is a hybrid activity attended by 12 people in person and 26 people online. The 3 days modeling workshop is using the ocean parcel model, which have been introduced by Nia before, and also it's demonstrated by Nia at the 3 days workshop. This is the map of the distribution of the participant. It is from the Syekh Kuala University at the western part of Indonesia and reaches the Papua region in Indonesia, the eastern part. So this is the sneak peek of what we have done. So we have Nia provided 3 days modeling workshop to the offline and online participants. And at the end of the events, we also let the participants to have individual projects. There are 25 submissions. They are working on very interesting projects like how marine debris from river coming to the ocean, also from the isolated island like in Karimun Jawa, and also like tracking the debris of Sriwijaya SG-182 accident in Indonesia. So it is very exciting and very happy to have the individual projects. I think that's all from me. I give it back from David. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Muriwu. That was brilliant, really interesting. So in this short project, we've been able to demonstrate how pathways of marine plastic litter can be modelled and visualised, and the web tools are legacy to increase awareness of plastic dispersal. The web tool shows how measures in one place can have an effect elsewhere, and it looks at seasonality, with the time of year having huge effects on whether plastic released to the river comes back ashore nearby or can travel a great distance. depending on wet or dry seasons. The importance of time of year means that an extended and refined set of models could potentially be really useful as a planning and policy tool, where to concentrate efforts to control discharge, where and when to intercept and collect floating waterborne debris. There's scope for much larger projects coming on from this one. And as you've heard from Munawir, the school and university outreach programs were really well received, really exciting. And Munawir, Neuer and the team put a great deal of effort into planning these. Hopefully, these will also be able to continue in some way. And certainly all the participants will remember them for a long time. We'd like to thank the funders and all the researchers in the project who gave up their time freely, and I'll pass you back to the chair to introduce the next project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, Mia, and also Munawir. I will summarize everything after the second and third project present their projects. So I'm going to welcome the next presenter, which is going to present about understanding local community perceptions of plastic pollution for a sustainable future, which will be presented by Charlotte Lydon. And Charlotte Lydon is a coastal scientist with interest in better understanding the drivers of coastal hazards for improved awareness, hazard mitigation, and also public safety. She is a lecturer in coastal dynamics, Liverpool University. Her research engages stakeholders and end users by providing essential information from numerical models, including model sensitivity tests and what-if scenarios, and data analysis techniques to inform hazard assessment and alternative management scenarios. Her interests and experiences, including numerical modeling of coastal processes and hazard using Delft 3D or hydrodynamic wave and particle tracking model, or LISFOD, the two-dimension spot inundation model, and XPeach, which is wave propagations and morphological development. Charlotte, I hope I'm not saying things wrong here. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi there, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm going to share my screen.
You do have 10 minutes for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, hopefully you can all see my screen, and thank you so much for that introduction. Hello everyone, good morning and good afternoon. My name is Charlotte Lydon, and today I will be presenting our project, which aims to better understand local community perception of plastic pollution to help work towards a sustainable future and to build resilient communities. This project is supported by colleagues in the UK and in Indonesia. So marine plastic waste threatens the livelihoods and welfare, including health, economy, and clean water of over 3 billion people worldwide who depend on the marine and coastal environment to support their lives. Fisher people's productivity is disturbed by the occurrence of plastic waste in the coastal zone. It can cause propeller entanglements, damage to fishing gear, and injuries. And previous studies have shown that this could lead to a change in fishing behaviour amongst communities in Indonesia against their economic interest, such as the avoidance of some fishing grounds or even seeking alternative employment entirely. The impact of plastic waste on livelihoods has also never been considered alongside the pressures of climate change. So climate change impacts, including sea level rise, warmer temperatures, and potential changes to monsoonal weather could cause more flooding, and this may overall alter fishing behaviour. So it's important for the sustainability and resilience of fisher people's livelihoods to understand their vulnerability to the combined issue of plastic waste and climate change. So the main aim of this project is to understand the plastic pollution issue in the Selayar Islands and its impacts on the fishing communities from the perspective of the fishing communities. So by working collaboratively with fisher people, we are aiming to better understand the impact of plastic waste and will give us insight into potential solutions for a sustainable and resilient livelihood. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to my colleagues Nurman, Prima, his research assistant, and Rosita in Indonesia for their enthusiasm and hard work for all of the following field-based activities. So the first objective of the project was to work collaboratively with fisher people in Selayar Island. So our project team recruited 10 community champions from Selayar Island who are fisher people. And these community champions were recruited to, first of all, answer questionnaires, a questionnaire that we have produced, and then to go into the community themselves and to collect more questionnaires and answers from family, friends, and colleagues. And then also to collect observation data on plastic waste that they see and experience when fishing. So 10 community champions were recruited in total. We asked each community champion to collect 10 questionnaires, and 101 completed questionnaires came back to us. So the questionnaire went through ethical approval at Bangor University and was made up of 15 questions grouped into 3 sections to better understand more on the livelihoods of the participant, on their opinion and understanding of the plastic waste issue in the coastal zone, and then also their understanding and opinion on climate change. We had both open and closed questions, giving participants the opportunity to share their opinions. So one example of a closed question, which is the first question in the questionnaire, is shown on screen to understand how often fisher people collect plastic in their nets. So we also conducted interviews with pre-selected members of the Selayar Island community to gauge their perception of plastic waste and the impact on the livelihoods and well-being of the local community. Not only did our champions conduct questionnaires, they also worked to conduct beach surveys. So the accumulation of plastic waste in the coastal zone has been quantified by scientists before, but the amount and type of plastic waste in the coastal zone from the perspective of the fisher people whose livelihoods are at stake here has never been considered. So we wanted to know more about the plastic from their point of view and how much there is. So we requested for community champions to complete this over the course of 4 weeks. We were lucky enough to find one community champion who was keen to survey their local beach for us over the course of a month. So we had a spread of locations across the west coast of Selayar Island. You can see on the west coast the location where our beach survey was completed. As I mentioned, we received 101 questionnaire responses. These responses have been collected over the course of the past 3 or 4 weeks, so it's quite recent. So the results so far have been tabulated and the basic outputs are presented here. So as expected from the figure on the left, fishing is a regular activity for many members of the local community, and it is also predominantly the only source of their income. In addition to this, fisher people regularly see plastic waste when they are at work, and over half have noticed an increase in plastic waste in the coastal zone. The large majority of fisher people who see or catch plastic waste in their nets will dispose of it back to the sea, and a smaller number take it back to the land. So with our results, we will continue working on developing these analyses, and we hope to be able to cross-reference different data sets together. For example, understanding if the working position of an individual on their boat is linked to their income, is linked to how or when they may have seen a change in the amount of plastic waste. And then also relating this to the questions and the opinions on climate change. So this data set is a unique data set of local perceptions of plastic waste in a fishing community, which gives us a greater understanding of the perception of fisher people's response to plastic waste at a very local scale. As I mentioned, the beach survey was conducted by one participant over a 4-week period, with just a 10-day example shown on the screen. The plastic they found each day ranged in size from 1 centimetre to 40 centimetres. No technical equipment was provided, so microplastics may have been present but were not quantified. The items were classified using a basic description, such as general waste, fishing gear, packing materials. We know that we need more elaborate data on plastic pollution to better understand this information, which can be used with the dispersal tool to define the source of pollution and to understand where these accumulate most. So Nuriman conducted interviews with members of the community to provide a regional perspective, including the head of the the Fishery and Maritime Agency, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, tourism divisions, and a local resort. There was a consensus that there is a problem. Clearly there's a problem, but the focus of international research, of national research has not been agreed on. And we're hoping to combine responses from these pre-selected interviews with those from a more local perspective from our fisher people to see if there are any opposing opinions and any opinions that are the same. We conducted a mini workshop earlier this month to discuss the delivery of the goals and objectives of the project. The head of the local environmental service and a representative from Celaya Free of Plastic Waste discussed the experiences and activities. Overall, I think that the workshop provided and highlighted the value of social and community activities as an effort to reduce plastic waste that threatens environmental sustainability and the livelihoods of coastal communities. So communities are keen to engage in this pressing issue, and our questionnaire and beach survey data will be further analysed and compared to discussion points from pre-selected interviews to generate a more coherent narrative about the issues in Celaya Island. We'll consider if there's a difference in opinions within the community between fisher people and those involved with local governments. And our challenge now is how to apply these results to contribute to change. And we think that these are a proof of concept, that there is a need for more research to better understand the scale and impacts of the issue. Thank you again to my research colleagues in Indonesia. Thank you to the funders, and thank you for listening. And please feel free to ask any questions that I'll do my best to answer in the Q&A session.
Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, so due to the limited time, you can, for the audiences, you can ask the questions directly through the chat box, and we're going to jump on your questions directly during the question and answer session later on. So I'm going to move directly to the third project for the first part of the webinar or the discussions. The third project is going to be presented by Dr. Komali Kantamaneni. They're going to explain about the evaluation of coastal vulnerability of Hanoi Itam, Sabang Island to climate change and marine plastic waste as an integrated approach. Komali is a coastal scientist with expertise in both physical and social aspects of coastal vulnerability. And she has also expertise in the topics of climate change, research methods, and vulnerability mapping. She is a senior research fellow in Science and Technology Faculty, University of Central Lancashire. And before she joined this project, she has also have a lot of various experiences throughout marine and climate change efforts, such as in Vietnam, Egypt, and also South Asia region. Hello, Dr. Komali.
Hi.
Okay, your time is now for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction and good morning, you all. I'm going to share my screen now. One minute.
Okay.
Can you be able to see my presentation now?
We can see it now, but it's not yet becoming a full screen.
Okay, I will try. Is it okay now?
All good now. Please take your time.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Komali, currently working as a senior research fellow at the University of Central Lancashire. So along with the Indonesian partners, we are going to evaluate the coastal vulnerability of Hanoi Itam, which is located in Sabang Island. So we have done some work about climate change and marine plastic waste, which is an integrated approach. Before going to the rest of the presentation, we would like to give the information about our project, what we have done, what we are going to do, and proposed results and dissemination and summary as well. So this is our case study area about Hanoi Itam, which is located in Sabang Island. So we are going to completely analyze the climate change to marine plastic and another means coastal flooding and other associated hazards. So why we have selected this one means we did not find the updated literature on this one. That's why we have selected this area. And these are our main aims. So we would like to analyze the climate change scenarios within physical aspects and estimate the marine plastic waste vulnerability and estimate the social vulnerability as well. And then once we have done both the physical and social science vulnerability, we would like to integrate a model based on the social sciences and physical scenarios. So what we have done now, as a part of physical vulnerability assessment, we already assessed the temperature and rainfall trends for the Sabang Island, including Hanoi Itam. In the next slide, I would like to show them our results for the temperatures. These are the temperature highlights which we have done in our research. So shows that northern eastern part of the Sabang Island is slightly warmer. That means more than 28 degrees. So that means we will get a high intensity flooding events and rainfall trends as well. And at the same time, the spatial variation in the annual mean temperature of the island is mainly controlled by topography and land use. And the habitation of the island are mainly located in the northern eastern part of the island. That means experience of warmer temperatures. This means temperatures are increasing in both on the land and the sea as well. And these are the maps which we are created based on our results. You can see the average monthly temperatures. So in the January, so if you can see the 2007 to 2021, there is a huge difference from 2007 to 2021. And now I would like to give the information on the rainfall trends. So this is also done for the Sabang Island, including Enhancement. So during the last 15 years, especially 4 years, as marked as the wet years, and the remaining 5 years marked as a comparatively dry. That means there is a inconsistency, means there is a fluctuations between the wet and dry. That means the rainfall is not a means inconsistency in between these years. And these are the results of average annual rainfall for the Sabang Island, including Enhancement. We did not find that much of difference in between Sabang Island and Enhancement because it is located in island. So these are the trends for the 2007 to 2021. And these are the highlights of the rainfall trends. So that means the annual rainfall of the Enhancement is increasing 3 mm per year with a statistical level of the significance. So also a cyclic trends with the upward of a rainfall trending during the special November and January with the statistical significance. So what we are going to do, already we have done some physical assessment, that is a climate change scenarios. So we got the ethical approval for our survey from the University of Central Lancashire. And we also prepared some questionnaire for the face-to-face and online survey as well. So within next 2 weeks, we are going to conduct, and this is the sample format of the questionnaire. So we have divided our questionnaire, means in survey for the 4 categories: farmers and students and vulnerable women and fishing communities. So farmers means which is in especially global south, in Asian countries, especially also in Indonesia. One of the main sources of the income is from the farmers in coastal areas. And at the same time, students, we would like to just test the knowledge in how much they have, especially in the school children. And next, vulnerable women. According to the United Nations, women are more vulnerable than men during the natural disaster strikes. Recently, we have published also one paper based on the GCR project. So that's why we would like to test the same thing in Indonesia as well. And at the same time, fishing communities. So more than 90% of the fishing communities are living in coastal areas. So that's why we would like to assess how their fishing activities are going on, especially in Enhancement and Sabang Island. And based on those things, preliminary results and final results, we would like to give a keynote talk, which I have received an invitation from them. Not only my project, and we are also going to discuss other 2 projects as well in this keynote talk. So at the United Nations and Ghana conference, which will be held in May in Ghana. And at the same time, we are also conducting a conference workshop at the United Nations conference, and we would also discuss all these projects results. And we are also discussing with the future collaborations as well. And already 2 papers are in the pipeline. One is the review article, which will be submitted to the Journal of Sustainability, where I am acting as a guest editor for this one. And the original research article, which will be submitted in the Journal of Remote Sensing, which impact factor is more than 5. So these are our preliminary results and what we are going to do in the future. Maybe we hope we will finish as soon as possible our survey and marine plastic measurement as well soon. And thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Komali. We're going to hold the question and answer session after all of the panelists present their presentations. And you have just wrapped the first part of today's dialogue from the panelists that is funded by the British Council Challenges Prize winners. Thank you. And due to the limited time, I'm going to directly move over to the next part of the webinar, which we are going to hear more the projects that coming from National Plastic Action Plan Indonesia. So please feel free to stop the share screen, Komali. Thank you. And for all of the audiences, please take a look at your chat room. There is a registration link that you can fill. And please make sure that for those of you who are currently located in Indonesia, you can actually win a door prize. So make sure to fill that form. And we're going to use the emails registered there to share the certificate, the recordings, and also slides if it is able to be shared. Okay, so thank you again for all of the presenters from the first part. Now we're going to move to the second part of the session. So we're going to hear from 3 projects, and I'm going to explain and welcome each one by one speakers, just like what we experienced earlier. Okay, first, we do have Bapak Arisman from Center for Southeast Asia Studies. Bapak Arisman have 20 years of experience in teaching and research supervision position in 2 public universities in Indonesia, including faculty member at Department of Development Economics, Faculty of Economic and Business, the State Islamic University or UIN Jakarta, and adjunct lecturer at University of Indonesia, visiting lecturer at Prince Songkhla University, Thailand, and Western Sydney University, Australia. And his research interests are environmental issues in ASEAN, sustainability, marine environment, waste management, urban development, and circular economy. Mr. Arisman has a lot of various experiences working together with international donors. And Mr. Arisman is currently the Executive Director for CISIS in Indonesia. And Mr. Arisman is going to elaborate to us about his projects in terms of riverine plastics pollution in ASEAN countries. Hello, Bapak Arisman.
Thank you, Tania. Can you hear?
Okay. I can hear you clearly, and you have 10 minutes from now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I would like to share our project. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I would like to start why riverine plastic pollution is important. As we know together that riverine plastic transport remain understudied, especially in the area that are expected to contribute most to global plastic emission to the ocean. So need a better understanding of pathway and transport mechanism of plastic waste to end within the rivers and the global distribution of riverine plastic emission into the ocean is a prerequisite to developing effective prevention and collection strategies. Yeah, I would like to quote, this is the latest research by Tim van Emmerik and his team. So here mentioned that more than 10,000 rivers account for 80% of global river plastic emission into the ocean. And 3 countries.
I'm sorry, are you sharing your screen? Because we cannot see it now.
You can see my screen?
Yes, we cannot see your screen.
Okay, let me.
Sure, I'm sorry for the interruption.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, this is again from the Tim van Emmerik and his team, the research on more than 10 rivers account for 10% of global river plastic emission into the ocean. So our project called ASEAN Norwegian Project on Local Capacity Building on Reducing Plastic Pollution is a 3-year project in ASEAN countries. The project objective is to improve capacity to tackle plastic pollution from the key source in the ASEAN. So the project outcome, the first is develop monitoring method for riverine litter and build local capacity on monitoring. The second one, assess socioeconomic impact for plastic pollution and reduction measures. The third one, identify reduction measures for key industry sectors, and of course, need to educate stakeholders and disseminate experience. Our project site is in the 3 ASEAN countries. The first is Citarum River, Indonesia. The second, Imus River in Philippines. And then the third one is in Pulok River in Vietnam. So, our project, I would like to touch only the research component because our project is quite comprehensive, involving research, capacity building, as well as develop a policy brief for policy paper, policy recommendation for the local government. I just, because the time 10 minutes, I will share the preliminary finding because this month we already done all the data collected in 3 countries. We combine with the river monitoring method as well as the socioeconomic survey. This is just one of the sample of our finding in these 3 countries ASEAN related to the behavior of the people along the river, as well as in ASEAN countries, other ASEAN countries, related to the purchasing behavior, plastic sachet in the food and beverage industry. So why I try to share this first, because this is related to the knowledge, attitude, and behavior of the ASEAN people, because this is the discrepancies of people understanding of other people understanding their behavior and plastic pollution, and the initiative and development initiative to reduce plastic waste. And then there's overall, they would like to willingness to change their behavior to reduce plastic waste. And one of the component of our project is referring plastic monitoring. The first is quantify the seasonal deposition and remobilization of litter along the river bank. And the second one, quantify the flux of plastic litter from the Citarum River to the sea. This is the finding. Actually, the finding is which I cannot share here because still in the process of publish in the peer review journal, but looks like the highest estimation plastics quite high, and then the composition of plastic dominated by food packaging of plastic sachet and plastic bag. The finding from the river, this is I would like to share what we did. I mean, not me, my team, because we also involved the local university as well local think tank or research institute in 3 countries. This is done by LIPI with Dr. Hidayat from LIPI and his team regarding the monitoring and then how they quantify the litter. And then the composition of waste, if you look at this data, plastic is a quite big number, around 15% until 20%. This is the same like the data by Indonesia Ministry of Environment data, around 17%. Besides the quantification plastic waste in the river, we're also doing household waste survey by face-to-face method interview and also observation how their disposal waste behavior. And also we also try to do household waste sampling for quantify the amount of waste daily basis in people who live along the river. 100 sample in Bandung in the upstream of Citarum, and then 100 household in the downstream of Citarum in the Bekasi Regency. The waste is collected 8 days and then separated by waste composition. Based on the finding from the household, this is the same data with the found by our team from LIPI, Dr. Hidayat. Looks like the plastic composition is around 20%, is increasing, like I mentioned, about 70%. So the latest 2 years is increasing. Maybe one of the increasing is one of the behavior of online shopping and others, so many things. But what I would like to also mention here in related to our finding need more redesign by producers for the food packaging and food and beverage packaging. That's why one of our project is how to implement circular economy in these ASEAN countries. Now we are developing handbook for riverine monitoring and beach monitoring. Mr. Noir also involved. And the second one, we developed the guidelines for best environmental practices for plastic packaging. So this is one of output this year. So we hope that we can share after we submit the report to ASEAN Secretariat in June. This is our team. Our counterpart is Norwegian Institute for Water Research in Oslo. And we also collaborate with PEMC in Manila. In local university, there's IPB as well as LIPI. In Vietnam, we collaborate with Da Nang University. In Philippines, we collaborate with De La Salle University and Cavite State University. I think that's all my presentation. Look forward to a discussion. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Bapak Arisman, for the wonderful presentations. And now we're going to move forward to the next presenter. Coming from the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, we do have Bapak Widodo Setio Pranowo as the National Research and Innovation Agency representative. And he's going to explain and elaborate more about the marine debris trajectory modeling and its verification. Mr. Widodo Pranowo is one of the principal researchers of Applied Oceanography in Sea-Air Interaction and Climate Variability Research Group in the Research Center of Climate and Atmosphere, or PRIMA, under the National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN. Currently, he became the expert counsel for many organizations such as Korea-Indonesia Marine Technology Cooperation Research Center and Marine Research Center of KKP, or MMAF, and also a member of Advisor Board Council University in Pajajaran University. Halo, Bapak Widodo.
Halo, Svetania.
Terima
How's
kasih,
my
Bapak.
sound?
You sound perfectly well. You do have 10 minutes from now, ya, Bapak. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. So hopefully my my PowerPoint could show up in here.
Yes, we can see it. It's still under the process for becoming full screen, and now we can see it full screen.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. So yeah, I would like to present many our research project since 2015, which is elaboration with many institutions, many universities from the survey in the field, and then modeling, and then analysis the macroplastic, microplastic, and the general marine debris. So if we see this animation, this is the sea surface salinity animation from 2000 until 2012, I think. And then we can see here the low salinity, which the color of blue coming out from the riverine. So this is related with what Dr. Arisman presenting. So we can imagine if, for example, the teleconnection from the Indian Ocean or from Pacific Ocean influence the rainfall. So when the rainfall is getting extreme, so we can imagine how many marine debris will coming out from the riverine and then goes to the ocean. So from this animation, we could also see how the seawater circulation in the Indian Ocean and also in the Pacific Ocean, and the water circulation from Pacific Ocean goes to the Indian Ocean through the Indonesian seas. So from this salinity, we can see so many complex sea surface current in the ocean. So if we derive the schematic of the surface current, so we can see here in the top of this picture is the Indian Ocean surface current during southwest monsoon, or we call it the wet season, and then in the below is the Indian Ocean surface current during the northeast monsoon. So we can see here so many type of the surface current happening in the ocean. So we could imagine if the marine debris from the terrestrial coming to the ocean, so then they will easily transporting by this ocean current. So I would like to focus on the Indonesian Sea. So as we know that Indonesian is the influenced by two teleconnection from the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and also we have the trade winds from the interaction between two continents, the Asian and the Australian. So when we working on the hydrodynamic part, so we should working on the continuity equation and the momentum equation. It is no matter we start from the momentum equation, then compute the continuity equation, or vice versa. We compute the continuity equation and then the momentum equation. So we need the data of the bathymetric feature, the coastline, the tidal, the monsoonal wind, or even the river discharge. So all these complex features will have influenced by the ocean teleconnection, such the El Nino, La Nina, and Indian Ocean dipole. So if, for example, we have concern about the high intensity of the rainfall, so we could include the Indian Ocean dipole negative combining with the La Nina mode. So this will influence the very high rainfall. Then this the rainfall will, for example, influence or generating the floods, and then will bring all the debris from the terrestrial coming to the ocean. And our team, which is led by Dr. Rini Rahmania and Dr. Budi Kudadharma, had been experimentally simulate the marine debris using the Lagrangian modeling in Indonesia. They put 14 sources based on the coastal cities, and then in each source released 25 initial particle. So then we could see that the differences between the west monsoon and east monsoon is quite interesting. So all this particle will transporting by the advection and the diffusion transport. This is quite interesting because the particle will transport it far away, so far away. Even, for example, if we see the east monsoon, the particle will transporting until the Indian Ocean. So in June 2021, we have the Minister of Marine Affairs of the French Republic visiting in Indonesia, and then and the minister have signed the memorandum of understanding with our Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries of Indonesia, and then collaboration with Indonesian scientists, and then research and published the book of the modeling results of the Lagrangian transport modeling of the particle, and then this collaboration continue with the releasing some drifter. We call it March T drifter, which is This is led by Mas Anwar Rizal dan Dr. Riri Rahmania. They released from 4 locations, and then we can see the deployment. After the deployment, the river is going to everywhere, which is influenced by the ocean current monsoon. So this is the last position of the Mertz marine debris drifter, when some of them already released in 2020, but currently some of them, for example, which is released from the Cisadane River. Cisadane River is nearby the Citarum River, which is mentioned previously by Dr. Arisman. So you can see that the marine debris drifter already reached the Africa, and this one is also almost reached the Madagascar. So this is quite interesting how the drifter will follow the ocean current. So in Java, we trying to simulate also not only releasing the drifter, but we also model the marine debris trajectory modeling in the Java Sea, and to see how the behavior when the is monsoon or the dry season. So this is releasing from the Muara Gembong nearby the Cisadane River. So immediately will directly flowing to the Indian Ocean. So this pattern, the same pattern with the drifter, so goes to the Indian Ocean. So and then this one, the same simulation but different month, but this is consistently showing how the marine debris coming out from the Cisadane River goes to the Indian Ocean through the Sunda Strait. And
Okay,
then
your time is up. Maybe you can help us to wrap your presentation. Thank you.
okay, yeah. So so I would like to showing one more slide. So this is the simulation again from the Cisadane and the Muara Gembong, but this is from the west monsoon. So if we see this simulation, so the marine debris also will coming to the Indian Ocean, but passing the Flores Sea and then the Lombok Strait also. So this is also already correlate with the marine debris drifter. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we still have some field survey with the boat and also the drone. So we still working on the identification of the marine debris in the ecosystem of seagrass, mangrove, and general coastal. So we will conducting also the research identification of the microplastic in the flesh of the fish. So I think that's all from me. So thank you.
Thank you, Bapak. What a great presentation. It really is interesting, but we need to move on to the last but not least presenters for today's discussion. Now we do have Bapak Muhammad Reza Cordova. He is the Oceanographic Center National Research and Innovation Agency representative. Pak Reza Cordova is going to explain to us about macro and microplastic pollution in Indonesia and updated perspectives. Pak Reza Cordova research interest in marine pollution ecotoxicology, and also environmental stress that led him to contribute to a study on marine litter and plastic pollution in the Indonesian marine ecosystem. Bapak Reza is involved in the Indonesian National Coordination Team on handling marine debris, where he is conducting a study on and designing a policy for combating marine plastic litter. His current research projects includes Plastic in Societies or PISAS partnership, microbial transformation of plastic in Southeast Asian seas or microSIP, and also plastic contamination on a microscopic level in freshwater and estuaries ecosystem or plastis. Bapak Reza, sudah bisa mendengar saya? Baik.
Well,
okay.
I forgot to unmute myself. So,
it's okay. Minutes for now. Thank you.
Have you seen my slide here?
Yes, we can see it.
This one, right? Not the
Yes.
other one. Okay. Well, many thanks, Mbak Tania, for introducing me. So, first of all, please accept my deepest thanks to being invited in the virtual seminar in here. So, I'm really honored to be with you in the virtual seminar. So, once again, my name is Reza. I'm a researcher in the Marine Pollution Research Group in the Research Center for Oceanography in the National Research Center for and Innovation Agencies. It was formerly known as the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, or LIPI. So today we'll present the current state of knowledge on macro and microplastic pollution in Indonesia. I'm saying everything is too fast because it's only 10 minutes, right? Anyway, okay. So marine litter is found in the coast, in every environment, even in deep seas, which can cause the harm to the entire marine ecosystem. The plastic item are the most abundant, persistent, and damaging the component of the marine litter that can accumulate in the environmental or to the ecosystem due to the plastic longevity. The plastic, the model, as mentioned by the presenter before, it's it's estimated that between 800 million, 0.8 million until 30 million metric ton that plastic waste that can enter the aquatic environment per year. So it's globally. In this case, Asia is the hotspot, and the marine plastic debris forecast could could reach for more than 50 million ton in 2030, if I'm not forgotten. And then the problem in the plastic is the collection and the recycling rate are, well, it's increased over time, but the problem is 79% based on the UNEP data. It's ended into the landfill or leak into the natural environment. In this case, the marine plastic litter has emerged into the critical issues in the term of scientific research. Yonal Youngs from the NUS recognized that there's a low rate in the marine litter publication within the Asia's region, which remain the low compared to the other region. So there's also few data, if you see in here, from the ASEAN countries that have been reported from 2017 until 2020. There's at least total of 145 scientific publications concerning the marine plastic debris in Asian countries. So Indonesia, well, is estimated to be one of the top polluter of the plastic ocean in the ocean. Top emitting countries of the plastic pollution in the world ocean. So the plastic pollution from the Indonesian seas not only come from the island, but also from the several countries that surrounding on this in the Indonesia's area. I'm too nervous right now. So the ocean current, as mentioned by Pak Widodo before, is transported to the inner seas of Indonesia, and the high plastic emission rate are hypothesis can be caused to the because of the Indonesia's high population densities in the coastal area, and the combination with the improper waste management and also insufficient surface coverage. The Indonesia itself is, we already know it's located in the Coral Triangle hotspot for the it's a global biodiversity, which is highly susceptible to the the negative effect of the plastic pollution itself. So the reduction of plastic emission into the Indonesia will therefore, of course, have a large impact to the both reduction to the global plastic emission to the ocean and also to protecting the global biodiversity. So the TKN-PSL, the National Coordinating Team on the Handling Marine Debris, estimate the number of the plastic litter that come from the Indonesian anthropogenic activities. It's the model that estimate the number of the plastic leakage from the land-based activity and sea-based activity. So basically the principle is to determine the amount of the waste that generated from the sea-based and also land-based activity, and then subtracted with the amount of the waste handled by government and the amount of the reduced waste that get from the community itself, and then they could got the number or the amount of the uncontrolled and unmanaged waste that leaks to the seas. From those calculations, the TKN-PSL estimate the number or the baseline of the plastic leakage from the Indonesian anthropogenic activities. The good news in here, you can see there's a decreasing of the total around 15%, around from 615,000 to 521,000 tons. Well, yes, there is the target is 70% by 2025, and it's still hard work until we got those numbers. So if you see this figure, Pak Noir Purba has published an article said that the plastic and microplastic research in Indonesia were concentrated in the western side of Indonesia. It's concentrated in the island of Java, and moreover, Friend et al. Identified 83 peer-reviewed articles published between 1969 until 2020. And then we added our data that we reviewed until the end of the 2021. So the majority of the studies of the plastic pollution in Indonesia is quantifying the microplastic, and there's also a smaller group quantified the macroplastic, and a handful of studies quantified both macro and microplastic. This is a similar finding with the global plastic research, which is found that the microplastic is the most frequently studied globally. And one of my program, my research project, the PISIS project, discovered disparities in the most often encountered in the macro debris, the big one in the Indonesian, not only ecosystem, but also in the provinces, we can say like that. So this means there is, how to say, each cities or each province will have the unique strategies to waste management by themselves. However, according to the report and scientific article, the top we found that top 3 of the litter is a plastic bag, plastic food container, and a plastic bottle or plastic cups that usually we use by the Indonesian people. This mean that the most waste that we must deal with, kind of initially bought from the source, in this case, like from the community or from the anthropogenic activity, and those are already present in the kind of environment. And in the term of microplastic research, we found most of the microplastic found in environmental matrix. The microplastic identified in Indonesia is being generated from the single-use plastic, and there's also likelihood that increase of anthropogenic activity may result in the increase of the plastic litter. Those plastic litter that going to the environment will break down into smaller plastic particle, and for example, like microplastic or nanoplastic. And even in Indonesia, there's also studies that say that microplastic can be a factor for the other pollutants, such as the persistent organic pollutant or heavy metal. Well, the number of the microplastic research in Indonesia is increasing, but the problem is there's a limited availability on the research equipment and suited laboratories in Indonesia, and absent of the standardized protocol for the monitoring microplastic. So the majority of the studies did not employ the quality control or quality assurance procedures. There's a big problem. This also including the they are not performing the blank technique to see the contamination of the airborne microplastic, or they do not do analyzing of chemical composition of the particle covered, or in this case, there's no description, is it plastic or non-plastic? I mean, plastic synthetic or not? Well, I hope that via strong partnership and also scientific collaboration, well, one of them can be achieved with the virtual seminar right now, we could overcome this kind of a gap. So there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 limitation of doing the marine plastic monitoring, and the main challenge, of course, the staff capacity and expertise, and then the terminologies, the guideline, the reporting tools. There's also, we have to standardize the protocol for detecting and sampling the plastic. In this case, there's also no available agreed on the method globally, and there's also need for method harmonization, because there's also a couple different approach of sampling tools, different extraction of method and laboratory condition. At the same time, plastic litter is needed for the scientific evidence, such as for debris hotspots, the predicting of the number of movements, such as mentioned by Pak Widodo. And then we also realized that the use of the different method could cause underestimate or overestimate result. So we have to harmonize the method first. And then there's also a lack of baseline on distribution and abundance of plastic debris on the seabed, and then subsoil at the regional scale, in this case on the ASEAN areas. And we have to do the ecological and environmental impact, such as to see the physical and psychological impact of the marine debris to the biota or marine habitat. And we have to see maybe, last but not least, we have to fill the research gap on the plastic debris impact on the socio and economic. So the take-home message for my presentation, there's 8 take-home message. The first one is marine debris is a transboundary problem, and then the river is the main transporting land-based plastic waste to the world ocean. So based from our monitoring in the several river and beach litter monitoring, it was found that single-use plastic dominate the litter in the marine environment. So since the number of anthropogenic activity will, kind of give an impact to the plastic activity, it can cause the breakdown of the plastic into the smaller sizes. So even though the number of microplastic studies in Indonesia is increasing, there's also several challenges that we have to, fill. Based from the review and research article published, the Indonesian coastal and in India marine water, the microplastic were found in all matrices, including the water, the sediment, the organism, even in the air. So even in Indonesia, there is a proven that the microplastic is a kind of a factor for the other pollutant. So last but not least, we have to do the holistic and detailed microplastic research to provide the interdisciplinary research. Since the microplastic pollution is a global phenomenon, we should strengthen the cooperation between local, regional, and international. So I think that's from me. So just remember, as a, I just remember a Native American proverb said that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestor, we borrow it from our children. So thank you very much for having me and listening to my presentation. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore semuanya.
Thank you, Pak Reza. What a complete presentation, and especially
so
loving the last slide that you shared. It's a great meme. But anyways, that's the end of the panel session, and we're going to jump ahead to the question and answer session. So for those of you that have already asked your questions through chat box, we're already putting notes on that. But for those of you who just started, wants to ask to our panelists, please share your questions by making sure that you can write your affiliation, domicile or country, and then the target speakers that wants to be asked, and then also your name and the questions. Okay, so to help me to ease the question and answer session, I'm going to invite Mr. Peter Robinson from Bangor University and also Gaynor Jones from Aquaterra to join me and lead the question and answer session. And I also want to invite to all of the panelists to turn on their camera so we can have a fruitful discussion together. Your time starts now, Mr. Peter and also Gaynor.
I'll hand over to Gaynor. If you don't mind, Gaynor.
Thank you for that, Pete. Okay. Well, listen, that was great. I would just like to say before we maybe move to the question and answers, as being part of this Researcher Links programme with the British Council last year, we did a lot of work with Bangor University and also our partners in CSERM at UNAS in Jakarta to bring the whole range of early researchers together. And it's absolutely mind-blowing what's been delivered with the small amount of funding that was made available through this challenge. So I'm really delighted to be invited to be part of this final wrap-up and to hear, you know, the vast range of activity on the ground. And what's really struck me is that all of the projects and the researchers have really grasped this opportunity of applying the science to directly to how this impacts on real people in real communities dealing with this significant challenge in their coastal environments. So yeah, it's been a really good experience. So thank you for everything, and thank you all to all the speakers today, and to hear the very specific work that's happened in South Sulawesi and Selayar Island particularly, right through to I think it was Kamali's talk, who took us right up to the north to Sabah, the small island of Sabang in Sumatra, and showing that this challenge it you know sweeps right across Indonesian's archipelago and then stretches right across the globe. So yeah, the floor's open. I mean, there's questions. The panel and the project researchers are available to answer any questions. And I know there's been a bit of activity in the chat. There's
a lot. There's a lot of questions actually, Gaynor, and the committee already helped you to gather and filter the questions. So if you want for us to share the screen for the questions, we will be happy for you as well.
Great, thank you very much for that. So would you like to pick up the questions that have come in then, Tiana?
Yeah, we can share the screen now. We are in the process of sharing the screen. So there are a couple of questions and maybe both of you can read it out loud if you think these questions is appropriate to be asked.
Yeah, okay, well, I think people can see this then. The first question's from David Gold from a company in Wales, asking to Charlotte at Liverpool University. David's asking, did you collect any beach samples that could be analysed for microplastics, either in the UK or in Indonesia? Don't know, is Charlotte available?
Yeah, hi, thank you, Gaynor. Okay, thank you, David. That's a really interesting question. That's something that we did consider, but we felt maybe given the timescales was maybe becoming too technical. I think at the point in time when we were developing the ideas, we were just looking to sort of tap into the local understanding and local knowledge of what the situation was on Selayar. But I noticed there's also a question from Pete coming up about what we would do with more money. I think providing insight to the local communities to help them to do these surveys themselves would be really interesting. A theme that we noticed was that in the literature, it was a lot of non-locals coming onto Celaya, collecting the data and taking the data away with them. And a lot of the participants in our group were really keen for the communities to have autonomy and authority over the data they were collecting. So it would be really nice if beach samples and plastic samples could be collected by the communities, and they were collecting this data, analysing it, tabulating it, and then sort of using it in a way that would be useful to them. So it hasn't been done, but yeah, I think that would be a nice way to encourage the fisher people to, take further control of the situation that they find themselves in. But, good question, thank you.
Could I just add, Charlotte, to that? David, we are going to be collecting samples on other projects locally around Llandudno, actually, on the Conwy estuary. So if you're interested, we get in touch because we can collect samples for microplastics locally. Cheers.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. Hopefully that's answered your question, David. Charlotte, there's another question here for you from Rahanto, asking about if there's a role for recycling in these projects. I don't know from the work that you did with stakeholders, whether that was an issue that came up specifically.
Another really good question. And I think that this was very much a theme that we noticed in our pre-selected interviews with kind of members of like the regional community. So the head of some of the local villages, the head of environmental protection were very keen for recycling projects to be introduced in the community, but it was often that there were a number of stumbling blocks in the way for these recycling projects to be implemented, whether that was financially putting out recycling bins, but also a lot of the time there was no resource for the waste to be recycled to then be transported to the recycling plants. So I think there's absolutely an acknowledgement that recycling could play a really key role, but I think that the infrastructure is just not there at the moment. And I don't think it looks like there's any solution to how the infrastructure could be funded or implemented. So that's something that I think has been recognised, but I'm not sure what has been done or could be done to help with that. But again, great question.
Thank you for that, Charlotte. And I think, Rahanto, I can add to that in terms of the work that Aquaterra has done in Celaya. There is a recycling centre on the main island, but as Charlotte said, it's got limited infrastructure, and there's the transport issues from the island prove a real stumbling block. But I think it's a good example of how this is obviously an academic project, and then businesses like Aquaterra get involved in these kinds of initiatives, and we work with local government in these communities, but we also work with NGOs and the community. And often it's the NGOs and the community that do the kind of recycling bit of this circular economy aspect, along the lines of what Ibu Tuti spoke about earlier when she was talking about the work of NPAP. So circular economy is a big part of this whole challenge. It's fine to analyse what's happening with these plastics, but then it's the so what question that comes at the end of that. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to question 3. We've had a question from Alvita to Nia Jones, and she's asking, does the application presented by the Bangor University have credible method of validating the model it created, what calculating method did it use?
Hi, yeah, thanks Alvita for that great question. There was no validation of the ocean parcels model kind of around Sulawesi Island for this project. We were just kind of using this tool as a proof of concept, but going forward, the next step would definitely be to validate the particle tracking model, and potentially with the drifters that were presented earlier, kind of in the presentation, that would be a great way of validating it. So hopefully, we can have some collaboration going forward.
Okay, thanks for that, Nia. Hopefully that answers your question. If we move on to the next slide, please. And I don't know, Pete, do you want to pick up these questions?
Yep, sure. Okay, yep. Question 4. So to Widudo. Are you there? Yeah, okay, cool. Since Nusa Penida receives regular trash donations, does the local government currently have a way to deal with that? And how does this garbage affect people there? Can you answer that? What we're going to do?
Nusa Penida, yeah. So, yeah, as my presentation before, that Nusa Penida is one of the location which is passing by the marine debris coming from the Java Sea. So this is regularly almost each year. So yeah, so this is if, for example, all the debris can handle in the terrestrial, so I think this is will have a good opportunity, because if the marine debris already coming to the river and then goes to the ocean, so we cannot handle the marine debris. So I think at the moment I could say like that. Thank you.
Okay, cool. We'll move on to the next question. So from Ramos to Arisman, for coffee packaging waste found in Bekasi and Bandung, is there a brand from abroad or is it only a domestic brand? Whether this is packaging can be used as a characteristic in determining movement and drift away. It's a great question. Can you answer that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, of course, for the branding, we don't do the brand audit, but of course, depend on the market. Like let's say for food and beverage, the big brand like Nestle, Lever is mostly is the common F&B product, but of course there's also local product. But in terms of numbers, yeah, the big company multinational is bigger. This is related to the market share of the product in the market. So for we don't use the characteristic packaging as characteristic of determining the movement of drifting waste, of course. So we just did the waste composition, which one the same like found by Reza. The highest plastic, which is a plastic bag and plastic packaging. So yeah, this is the highest numbers, including what we found in the river is the same numbers. So this is what we get related to the plastic packaging waste. Thank you.
I guess it could be a way to validate the models another way, which would be interesting. Okay, move on to the next question. From Daniel to Reza Cordova. How does Indonesia's policy succeed to reduce plastic waste in the last 4 years? What kind of real actions Indonesia did to reach this?
Well, thank you very much. It's a really good question, but to be honest, I don't know how to answer it because I'm not really part on that, but I will answer it. So the policy itself, there is a national action plan for the handling marine debris as outlined in the presidential regulation number 83 on 2019. So there's 5 strategies in there, but the action that already maybe succeed for doing the reducing the plastic waste itself is the strategies for controlling the waste that coming from the land activity to the watershed, because as we knew that the river is the main big transporter of the plastic pollution from the plastic to the ocean. So controlling the plastic waste itself from the upstream to the downstream, including to the with the industrial sector. In these strategies, I would say there's also regulation. I forgot. There's a regulation from the Ministry of Environmental and Forestry for the roadmap for waste reduction by producer. So it can help the not using this single-use plastic again. And there's also another strategies that include for the management plastic waste originating from the marine transportation activities, the activities from the tourism, the marine fisheries, as well as the coastal areas, or kind of a small island. As far as I knew, there are several actions that have been and are currently being carried from the Indonesian government, that including the drafting regulation and also the building the reception facilities to the reception, supporting the facilities in another infrastructure in 12 big areas that hepatize. That's kind of increasing the infrastructure on the transporting of the waste from the communities to the I will say landfill just before they leak to the environment. I don't know if it's answered the question or not, but if Daniel, if you can contact me, we can talk in detail, and then we can discuss it with the Indonesian government. But thank you very much. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks, Reza. We've got a few minutes left. Do you think we should rattle through these? We can skip my question if you want, or should we end there and round up? What do you think, Aina?
Well, I think perhaps in the interest of time, we should maybe just finish there, perhaps, and we'll make sure that any final questions that have been asked, we can get some responses, because I believe that you'll be receiving the presentations that will be sent to everybody, so we could just wrap up those questions via email. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm going to jump in right away to that queue. As what earlier mentioned by Gaynor, that the rest of the questions will be forwarded to the panelists and will be answered thoroughly through your emails that has been registered from the registration link. But to wrap things up, I got the request from the committee that maybe either Pete or Gaynor can speak on behalf of a closing statement for the group. Sure.
Well, yeah, go for it again if you said.
Well, yeah, as I said earlier, just to say that it's just been fantastic, the response to this challenge, and I think the main aims of this were to link researchers, to link early research career researchers together. And the key thing was to work in collaboration, and it was to address issues more broadly around climate change, but more specifically around marine plastic waste. And I think that what's been demonstrated today is that the brief has completely been fulfilled, and people have really grasped this and really taken the challenge and applied it to real life situations that can have a real impact. And I guess my plea would be for the collaborations to be maintained and strengthened, and to try and grow your networks and to see what other opportunities can come up, so that there's some real legacy for this project, so that you can see what the next steps are for your particular areas of interest. I think that this can grow and grow, and as we see through what's been set up through NPAP and the marine plastics work that's going on around the world, there's this is a huge agenda, and we're only going to achieve a real impact if we can continue to work together, on this. So keep going. That's what I would say as my closing remarks. Keep going. Well done.
Thanks,
Steve,
Gaynor.
from Bangor's point of view.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Nothing else to add really, just just thank you all for putting so much effort into summarizing this work.
Okay, thank you, Gaynor and Tit. It really gave us like the spirit, and also like really, doing a review out of those presentations and the discussion itself, that the collaboration and the framework is already there, but it needs to be grown. Okay, and I think on behalf of the committee, I'd like to say our apologies if there is any mistakes or wrongdoings during the webinars. But we are also addressing that for those of you who already have filled the registration link, there will be an opportunity for you to win a tumbler that is presented by all of the organizers, which is British Council, Bangor University, Aquaterra, Pajajaran University, and also Indonesia and PAP. So make sure that you have already filled the registration link. And thank you very much on behalf of the committee. Looking forward for the next collaborations. And please stand by in our social media to join us in the future collaboration ahead. So on behalf of the committee, we'd like to close this event today. And thank you very much for everyone. Bye-bye. Good night and good evening and good afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
The recording has stopped.
Terima kasih Pak Widodo, Mas Rejan, Pak Arisman, Sophie, and others.